I find out what students think about a looming phone ban in schools across Taiwan.
驾照回训放水. 驾照回训放水.
Road safety campaigners are calling for the government to step up after a deadly week on Taiwan's roads. This year's Computex hints at some promising possibilities for AI. We take a look. Plus,
this is Taiwan's largest Chinaberry tree. It's more than 100 years old and it's a landmark of Taiwan's central mountain range. But its future is not certain and the local community has called in the tree experts.
A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Laurel Stewart. Smartphones in class could soon be a thing of the past as Taiwan's Education Ministry mulls stricter regulations that could force schools to keep their students' mobile phones under lock and key. Rees has the story.
The time between classes is a brief window for students to hop on Instagram or get in a few rounds on their favourite mobile game. But having constant mobile phone access at schools in Taiwan could soon be a privilege revoked. Taiwan's Education Ministry has submitted a draft bill that would mean stricter regulations on students using phones in schools from September. Lawmakers agree that phones are having a negative impact on young people's education, but say any solution needs to include their perspectives too.
手机规范的管理应该是我们要来帮助在校园里面的学习品质，但是绝对不能造成校园民主的倒退，所以尊重学生的声音，我们希望教育部一定要来坚持。
As it stands, the draft bill will force elementary and junior high schools to collect and store all students' phones for the entire school day. For senior high schools, they'll need to formulate their own smartphone policies after consulting with teachers, parents and students. Students will only be given access to their phones in case of an emergency or if it's needed for educational purposes. The proposed changes are welcomed by many, though some are concerned about how they'll be implemented.
Well, I think it's a great idea, but with most things like this, the devil is in the details, and actually executing it is going to be a challenge. I mean, these are very expensive devices that you're separating from their owners, which leaves the issue of liability there. The school where I'm currently employed has already banned cell phones, but students still do find a way to get them and use them in class.
And while many students agree phones can be a distraction, particularly for younger children, some senior high schoolers say they could be losing a valuable learning tool.
因为有些东西你是不一定只能在书本上或是问老师就可以问得到的东西，而且因为班上人数这么多，所以你要查一个东西的时候，也要自己善用自己身边的工具。
对我来讲，高中生应该是可以完全自主使用手机。那国小跟国中的话，我还是会觉得，国小的话，我觉得是建议不要用手机，因为确实不太，就是还在发育的年龄，感觉还不太会可以自己管控手机的使用方式。
If passed, Taiwan would join a growing list of countries with some form of phone ban in schools, including China, Australia, and many across Europe, as education officials the world over turn on to the idea of getting students to turn these off. Chris Ma and Rees in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
2 deadly car crashes in Taiwan this week have reignited a national outcry over pedestrian safety. As grief turns to frustration, road safety advocates and lawmakers are demanding urgent action, and they're taking to the streets on Sunday to make their voices heard. John Ventriest reports.
驾照回训放水. 驾照回训放水.
Outside the legislature, campaigners and lawmakers gather in collective anger. It's been 3 days since a driver slammed into a busy intersection in New Taipei, killing 3 people and injuring 12. The cause of the crash is still unclear, but there are suggestions the driver's age, 78, may have been a factor. What is known is that the driver was able to renew his license earlier this year without problems, despite having hit another pedestrian in the past. While the nation is still in shock, campaigners here say the crash is just one in a long string of tragedies on Taiwan's roads, including a similar deadly crash in Tainan on Tuesday. They say road safety is so bad that it's even made the news abroad, with CNN calling Taiwan a pedestrian hell in 2022. They say it's time to do something to turn this around. So on Sunday, they're marching through Taipei to demand government action. The government is moving. The Transportation Ministry is lowering the age of mandatory license renewal from 75 to 70, among other rule changes. But these activists say this renewal process is still too easy and could easily miss people who can no longer drive safely.
他只是问你简简单单的，你几年出生，今天是几号，你有没有色盲，这些完完全全非常简单的题目，只是简单的健检题目，没有任何的路考，没有任何的笔试，只是这样子就放任驾驶上路了。
And some of the speakers say inaction on reforming the license renewal system spans decades, even though reports and public hearings have pointed to the need for change.
1993年，交通部就第一次提出了驾照回训必要性的报告。我想说的是，驾照回训并不是交通上的新议题，而是一段长达32年的改革路。从1993年交通部首次提出驾照回训必要性的报告开始，历经了5任的总统，到今天还没有完成。
5 lawmakers from all 3 parties with seats in the legislature have come to give their suggestions. From the Taiwan People's Party, these include changes to traffic rules and signage, and the central government making order out of scattered local efforts at improving road safety.
学校旁边的设置，各个地方政府其实在学校旁边都做了非常多的努力，但是没有统一的规范的话，是没有办法强制或者是给予更多的惩罚。
The main opposition Kuomintang representative says license renewal should depend on the ability to drive safely, not just age. And he criticized the Transportation Ministry's reform plans.
我们看到交通部似乎只为了回应社会的一个期待，来做出的一个调整，他也并没有从科学化、数据化告诉大家为什么是从75改到70，是一个感觉吗？
And voices from the ruling Democratic Progressive Party included calls for lower speed zones around schools, and to be more forceful about taking away licenses when needed.
我也认为我们现在应该要更积极的来去把这些曾经有肇事或是违规的记录的这些驾驶者呢，我们应该要有一个预警系统，然后并且主动关怀。那如果他没有执行，我们应该有一个退场机制。
As lawmakers aired their ideas, the activists here put forward 3 demands that will be the focus of Sunday's march.
第一点是我们要全面建立回训制度，第二点是我们高龄驾驶的回训要改革，第三点是我们的交通工程要改善。
They hope to put pressure on the government to meet these demands, so that preventable traffic deaths they say have tarnished Taiwan's reputation will be a thing of the past. Scott Huang and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
2 Israeli embassy staff members have been shot dead in the US capital. The shooting took place at an event outside the Capitol Jewish Museum hosted by the American Jewish Committee. Police have detained the shooter and believe he acted alone. US President Donald Trump has expressed condolences to the families of the victims, blaming the shooting on anti-Semitism. The Philippines says a Chinese Coast Guard ship aggressively targeted 2 of its civilian research vessels, hitting one with a water cannon. The incident took place near Sandy Key, a small uninhabited sandbank in the South China Sea, known in the Philippines as Pagasa Key 2. This is the first such use of force by Beijing's Coast Guard against Manila's research vessels in that area. Sandy Key sits on the northern edge of the T2 Reef in the Spratly Islands, an area claimed by both China and the Philippines. Tensions have risen in recent weeks, with both countries displaying their flags on the disputed sandbank. The Philippines says one of the vessels was damaged after being sideswiped by the Chinese ship. Over 300 public sector workers in Taiwan have traveled to China illegally over the past decade. That's according to a new report by Taiwan's government watchdog. By law, most Taiwanese public servants must get approval before visiting China. But a recent investigation by the Control Yuan found that at least 318 officials made the trip without permission, including 55 high-level officials. The watchdog says the real number could be much higher, with many cases possibly slipping through the cracks. It's now urging the government to strengthen oversight. Taiwan's drone companies are seeking to expand into the US market to bolster an industry seen as critical to national security.
那很核心点的部分，美国当然一定就是主力市场我们在看的，在完全要去中国化红色供应链的一个无人机的产业状况，台湾就是全世界最好的 partner， 希望说能够成为replace DJI 的一个将来一个产品。
Taiwan's drone makers attended the Exponential Drone Show in Houston, Texas as part of their push. The industry is being highly promoted by the government as part of its asymmetric defense strategy. The head of the US de facto embassy in Taiwan, Raymond Green, also flew to Houston for the event. He says the US and Taiwan's economies and industrial capabilities in drones complement each other. Do you need the internet to use AI? Well, some products debuting at this year's Computex trade show in Taipei say maybe not. And your home or office could be a tiny data center. As our tech reporter Chris Gorin tells us, no matter how small, these devices are reliant on Taiwan's tech ecosystem.
At Computex 2025, there's plenty of cool computer cases and demonstrations of how AI assistants can act as concierge, assistant director for your live stream, can help you visualize your home remodel, or generate multiple versions of reality. But some devices being shown this year are not just about what AI can do, but where AI does it, moving from distant cloud computers to devices much closer to us, a trend known as hybrid or edge AI.
So I think that when we're seeing the distribution of AI moving not out of the cloud, but expanding also to the edge and to desktop and laptops, and freeing small to medium-sized businesses, being able to do AI workloads and do training locally. I think that kind of changes the game a little bit.
And AI is a business where size matters. Training or using AI models used to rely on data centers filled with massive servers like these. But the industry is changing, bringing that power closer to home with AI computers that can even fit in your hand. It's not just about convenience. Creating and using AI models locally and offline can be more secure and faster, leading to quicker breakthroughs in other fields.
This is going to be an exciting time because this is when AI becomes super useful for, whether it's curing cancer or trying to solve for climate change.
So will you eventually be able to train AI models, say, on your smartphone?
Certainly. Yes, I do. I do think we'll get to that point. Because the models will become more efficient and the computing power will get greater and greater.
Whether it's a smartphone or a data center, all these AI promises hinge on AI chips. And right now, Taiwanese chip giant TSMC manufactures nearly every leading AI chip, and it's racing to keep up with growing demand.
TSMC is still a situation where demand is much higher than supply, and TSMC is still ramping up all these plants to get that back into sync or to meet that demand.
That may be why companies like NVIDIA announced even more investment in Taiwan at Computex, such as its new Constellation office in Taipei. The company's need for chips is vast, as it makes deals to provide tens, even hundreds of thousands of AI chips to countries across the world, including Taiwan. And these new investments in the country come despite widespread predictions that the industry could diversify away from the long-running leader.
I think there are a lot of themes going on at Computex this year, and one of them is obviously the sort of resurgence of Taiwan, where the chip industry is sort of, not planting its flag, but maybe not replanting it, cementing it. Taiwan is still very much at the center of this and matters a lot.
As AI moves into our homes, offices, and pockets, Computex is revealing a future that's smaller, smarter, and still made in Taiwan. Klein Wong and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Chinaberry trees in Taiwan can grow to impressive heights and live for more than 100 years. But because its name in Taiwanese Taigi unfortunately sounds like the words for sorrow or bitterness, many in Taiwan were cut down. Rick Lowett reports from the country's tallest surviving Chinaberry on the fight for its survival.
A majestic but silent giant towers over this small village in Taiwan's central mountain range. Standing at over 30 meters tall, is the country's largest Chinaberry tree. For about 140 years, it's been a fixture of daily life here in Guanghua, dropping its leaves each winter and flowering in purple blooms each spring.
就高开门就带着希望。
其实那个也是有一个代表性的，代表就是说我们这边就是的空气好，然后这水质好。
This tree is a rarity. In Taiwanese Taigi, Chinaberry is called Kolian, a name that sounds like the word for sorrow and bitterness. And for that reason, many in Taiwan cut down trees like this. But here in Guanghua, one survived, and as the tree reaches new heights, so do concerns about its health.
先丢这个分叉，丢这个分叉，我们爬。对啊。
Locals have called in the experts. Rebecca Xu is Taiwan's most renowned tree scientist, dedicating decades to finding and protecting Taiwan's tallest trees.
你现在就直接那个挂钩的地方再加1.5米打结啊。
On her first visit to Guanghua, Xu climbed to the top of the tree and was relieved to give Taiwan's tallest Chinaberry a clean bill of health.
如果这棵树它生病了，然后这边的人一定会被影响啊！你也知道，心理会影响身体嘛，对，所以我觉得这个就是有这样 symbol 是很 lucky 的，就不是每个村子都有这样。
Taiwan's ancient trees are under pressure. With rising temperatures and an increasingly erratic typhoon season, trees like this one are more vulnerable than ever. And with 60% of Taiwan's land covered in forest, Xu can't do this alone. She's now enlisting the help of people like Zai Yao, a member of the indigenous Zhou group who grew up just across the valley from Guanghua. He's told the village he'll help care for their tree, and says the traditions of his people who've lived in these mountains for thousands of years guides his work in the forest.
其实州主就是跟环境其实是环境，包括说，我们看到的是周围的东西。 从树、山、河川都是很有联系，因为那就是我们的生活。
多吃哦。As the experts scale its branches, this tree's enduring presence has also become like a bridge, connecting community, science, and age-old traditions. Its future, standing tall as a guardian over this valley, depends not only on its strong roots in this land, but also its strong roots in its people. Luffy Li, Peachy Zhuang and Rick Lowett in Jiayi County for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up after the break, Taiwan's democracy is in the spotlight after it won a first-of-its-kind award from a major international NGO.
Thank you for sharing our passion for food and Taiwan. Veggie Island explores the vibrant world of plant-based cuisine.
This is amazing.
While Taiwan on the Rocks uncovers the stories and craftsmanship behind every sip.
Have you ever tried Taiwanese beer?
Are you ready to taste even more of Taiwan?
In the face of adversity, the power of truth.
A roadmap for a just and open world, charted by the freest country in Asia.
Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
TaiwanPlus News, a voice of freedom in Asia.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. A major global freedom watchdog has awarded Taiwan for protecting democracy. Taiwan won the inaugural Beacon Award at the 2025 Freedom House Awards ceremony. The group highlighted the resilience of Taiwan's government and civil society in the face of escalating pressure from the Chinese Communist Party. Taiwan's de facto ambassador to the US, Alexander Yu, accepted the honor on behalf of the government, and Jiang Minyan from the Taiwan Economic Democracy Union was there to represent civil society. For more on Taiwan's efforts to protect its democracy, our reporter Tiffany Wong spoke with Jiang Minyan after he accepted the award.
So Freedom House just gave its very first Beacon Award for Democracy to Taiwan. What does it mean that Freedom House is not only recognizing Taiwan's government, but also Taiwan's civil society with this honor?
I think for Freedom House, they value the Taiwanese democracy, and they want to emphasize that Taiwanese people are trying to sustain their own democracy, even though we are living under a military threat from the biggest authoritarian countries now in the world. For Freedom House, they are also recognizing that Taiwanese civil society is an indispensable political force in Taiwan's democracy. And it sometimes work with the Taiwanese government, sometimes it work independently from the Taiwanese government. And that is the very reason why we can keep our democracy vibrant in the current time.
So you were the representative of civil society accepting that award on Tuesday night. What was it like for you to represent not only your organization, the Economic Democracy Union, but also the rest of Taiwan's civil society?
Taiwanese people, we pursue democracy over a century. And we pursue democracy and we form our own national security. And we practice democracy in our own land through elections, through social movement. For Taiwanese people, I think civil society is a key force for us to nurture the capable political party and to hold our political systems and the politicians accountable. And this is one of the reasons why Taiwan's democracy can remain vibrant, because there's always a political force called Taiwan civil society, and it continue to play a role in this system.
In naming Taiwan in this honor, Freedom House acknowledged that Taiwan faces threats to its democracy, especially from China. Could you talk a bit more about the threats that Taiwan's democracy faces both internally and externally?
Our democracy is very young, and it has been only 3 decades since the end of the martial law. So for Taiwanese people, we are still trying to consolidate the democratic systems into our daily life. But somehow it will become vulnerable toward the Chinese infiltrations. For example, the Chinese sharp power that would undermine our media environment, and Chinese government, they feed the disinformation campaign to our democracy. We are also facing a lot of gray zone tactics from China. For example, recently there are lots of submarine cable were cut off by some suspicious entities with the connection with CCP regime. But for Taiwan, compared to China, which is the biggest authoritarian regime in the world now, so it will be very challenging for Taiwan to defend ourselves without other assistance from the Democratic Alliance. However, we have to show our steadfast determination to defend ourselves. Only with this determination we can convince our friend from the international community to work with us.
That was Jiang Minyan from the Economic Democracy Union. In North Korea, a new 5,000-ton warship failed to launch after an accident, prompting a rare public scolding from leader Kim Jong-un. State media says Kim was there when it happened and blamed the failure on carelessness, saying it could not be tolerated. He's ordered the ship to be repaired immediately. But Pyongyang seldom calls attention to such incidents, prompting some to speculate about why Kim did it this time.
And what's interesting is that they decided to make it public because they could easily hide it. And in the past, they usually were hiding such incidents. But personally, once again, I believe it's largely an emotional reaction by Kim Jong-un.
This is not the first time North Korea has had trouble with new military equipment. A satellite launch last year ended in an explosion mid-flight. Conservationists in Taiwan have released 3 rehabilitated sea turtles back into the ocean to mark International Biological Diversity Day.
他们这3只动物，他们当初都是因为搁浅啊，或者是渔民通报抓鱼的时候不小心去抓到的，不外乎就是这些原因。这也是台湾常见的一些海龟搁浅的一些常见的事件。
The 3 animals, 1 greasine turtle and 2 olive ridley sea turtles, were released at Hobihu Beach in southern Taiwan. Before that, they had spent months at a rehabilitation centre at the National Museum of Marine Biology and Aquarium. There are 11 other sea turtles still recovering at the facility there. Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more of our stories. Finally, let's take a look at the Tokyo Geisha Festival, which is reviving a dying art. I'm Laurel Stewart. Take care and see you next time.